welcome to another episode of Hall of Divine Ruins, where today we're going to talk about the winter solstice. Happy Yule, happy winter solstice, everybody. The winter solstice marks the exact moment when half of the earth is tilted to the furthest away from the sun. Usually happens on December 21st or 22nd at the exact second around the world. Because less sunlight reaches the earth, the winter solstice is also the day of the year with the least amount of daytime, known as the shortest day of the year. But the good news is that every day after the winter solstice gets a little bit longer until we reach the day with the most hours of daylight, called the summer solstice, which usually occurs between June 20th and 22nd. For people who live in the southern hemisphere, the winter solstice takes place in June, because the seasons are reversed below the equator. For instance, in New Zealand, it's actually snowing in July. For many people, the winter solstice marks a change of fall to winter. But there's a difference between the winter solstice and the first day of winter. The first day of the winter season, which is called the meteorological first day of winter each year, the first day of winter season is based on the temperature records in the United States. Winter lasts about 90 days. Scientists often tie it to the calendar so that the winter falls during the later part of December, January, or February to about the early part of March. One myth is that the winter solstice is the coldest day of the year, but the coldest temperatures are often still at least a month away, depending on where you live. Can you see the winter solstice? Yes, kind of. On the winter solstice, if you stand outside at noon and look at your shadow, it'll be the longest shadow you cast the entire year. And here's why. Every day the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, tracing an arc across the sky. The highest of the arc changes during the Earth's yearly orbit around the sun. As our planet orbits, one pole is tilted towards the sun, and one pole is tilted away from the sun. During the winter in the northern hemisphere, the north pole is tilted away from the sun, so the height of the arc is low, and your shadow will definitely look long. Ancient people built many monuments to celebrate the winter solstice. One example is the Newgrange, a high tomb mound built in Ireland around 3200 BC, 1,000 years before Stonehenge. A tunnel facing the solstice rose to the main chamber, and a small window bathed the chamber in the solstice light for about 17 minutes. Yule is a festival historically observed by the Germanic people, scholars, and have connections to origin celebrations of Yule in the wild hunt for the god Odin in the pagan Anglo-Saxons. Also called Mother's Night, some present-day Christmas customs and traditions such as Yule logs, Yule goat, Yule boar, Yule singing, or Yule tide, and other many connections to this music is connected to the older pagan Yule traditions. Yule cognates and still used in English as a Scandinavian language as well as Finnish historian described the Christians and other festivals occurring the winter holiday season. Yule Modern English is derived from the Old English Yule or Yule. In the English, Yule or Yule indicates that a 12-day festival of Yule, later Christmas Day, the later indicating the month of Yule, whereby it refers to the period before the Yule festival in December, and referred to the period after Yule, which is within January. Both words are cognate with the Gothic, Norse, Icelandic, Faroese, Norwegian, Danish, Sweden, and are thought to be derived from the Proto-Germanic word Yawala. Pardon me, I'm not really popular and versed in how to do that kind of stuff, in reading that kind of stuff. Let's talk about Viking Christmases. Every December, the Vikings would celebrate the midwinter solstice, the longest night of the year, and the daylight is the shortest of the year. The celebration included drinking, feasting, songs, games, banquets, sacrifices to the gods and ancestor spirit for 12 days straight. They called it Yule, which is pronounced the same as the word for Christmas in Norwegian today, Yule. The Viking believed Odin, the great god and father of other gods, would ride across the night sky and visit them in their homes. Viking children would leave their shoes out by the hearth on the eve of the winter solstice with sugar and hay for Odin's 8-legged horse Svinir. Sound familiar? Christianity reached Europe, while the Vikings still believed in their pagan mythology. Norse traditions would be mixed with the Christian, turning Yule into Christmas. Many of us celebrate today. Indeed, as we look deeper into the Vikings, they had many themes that held true today. They had a Yule tree, which inspired the Christmas tree, the green tree, which was often decorated with small statues of the Norse gods, food, and clothing. They attempted to call for the spirits of the forest. The Yule wreath, which was a giant wheel that the Vikings set on fire and threw down a hill to wish for the return of the sun. It is theorized the Yule wreath was the ancestors of the Christmas wreath that you find on doors today. Mistletoe had a very mystical importance. Norse legend told of how a god of light, Balder, was slain by an arrow of mistletoe, but was resurrected when his mother's tears turned the berries of the plants red. Thus represents the resurrection and hope for the end of winter. The Viking Yule goat, which was one of the most important parts of their ancient pagan celebrations, connected to worship Norse gods Thor, who rode the sky in a chariot drawn by 2 goats. In common Indo-European beliefs, the last sheaf of the grain bundled in the harvest was credited with the magical properties as the spirit of the harvest saved for the Yule celebration, called amongst other things the Yule goat. Today you can find straw goats used as decorations during Christmas. The Yule log was a long oak tree carved with runes to wish for the protection of the gods and the burning of the duration of the celebration. It let go out was said to be dark omen and a sign. If it was to let go out, it would be a dark sign and omen of bad luck to come. The Vikings would save a piece of the Yule log for the next year's fire. During the Yule celebration, someone would be selected to dress up as the Old Man Winter, a white-bearded man dressed in a hooded fur cloak. Thought to represent Odin, this individual would travel around the community, joining in with various celebrations. This figure was introduced into England while parts were underway and were under Viking rule. Soon became the modern Father Christmas or Santa Claus. In Old Norse mythology, the Northern Lights were said to be Bifrost, the bridge between Asgard and Midgard. Refers to the Vikings' expression for going on a journey and expedition to foreign lands. Hence the words, "Go Viking with us." Yule is a time of year that we have great roots in compared to other religious groups. Christianity made Yule Christmas by taking a lot of our traditions and making them their own. But remember that Yule is in fact ours, not theirs. This is just a heads up that we are having a New Year's Day celebration live stream, as long as my internet can. This is just a reminder also that we are having a New Year's Eve celebration. This will be starting at around 10 o'clock, and there will be a event tab up. This is going to be a virtual gathering in the first of the new year, and we hope to see everyone there that's possible to be there. Until next time, I'm Druid Viking. your gothi, and this is another episode of Hall of Divine Ruins. Peace.